Welcome to another broadcast of the Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Thursday mornings at 9:30 at the Lorain County Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and as always, you are invited to attend.
Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning and welcome to the September 9th meeting of the Lorain County Board of Commissioners. We have a proclamation proclaiming the week of September 6th through October 3rd as Parents' Week. Is there someone here who is going to receive this?
One was supposed to, but I don't see him.
Okay, then we'll have Teresa forward it to his office unless he shows up during the meeting. Okay? What is the 935?
He is here with Alice's Mark Kernahan, Ohio Citizens Corp. By the sign-up day on September 11, 2004.
Would you come to the microphone, please?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Mark Kernahan. I work for the Volunteer Action Center in Lorain, and I first want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak about our Citizen Corps sign-up day, which is on September 11th. Just a little bit of background first before I go into that actual event. I wanted to give you some framework to understand all this. Following the disaster of September 11th, 2001, our president really wanted to instill a sense of preparedness throughout our community. So there was a national initiative called Freedom Corps, and the primary job of Freedom Corps was to get as many citizens involved in Citizen Corps councils and Citizen Corps activities throughout our country. Ohio is actually a leader in formation of Citizen Corps councils, and we have a very active one here in Lorain County under the direction of Tom Kelly and Alice Weber at the Lorain County Emergency Management Agency. Citizen Corps also brings together firefighters, emergency health care providers, law enforcement, and emergency managers with volunteer resources. And the idea is that following a major disaster is not the time to start training people. As we're seeing in Florida, as we've seen all across our country, when disaster strikes, it's best to have well-trained, highly qualified people at the ready. We all have a role in hometown security, and our first responders in our communities need everyone's help. We've heard this message so many times that we as community members have to be able to take care of ourselves at least for the first 72 hours. And there's lots of different ways that people can be involved. They're going to get a chance on September 11th at local McDonald's. There's 15 of them in Lorain County, and there's also a firehouse in Eaton Township where people can get more information about Citizen Corps and sign a card, and there's other opportunities for them to get involved later on. But I guess that people need to know that there's a role for just about everybody in this. Ohio Citizen Corps, a neighborhood watch program, a volunteer and police service program. There's even a short course called Terrorist Awareness and Prevention Program. It's about an hour-and-a-half long presentation where citizens can learn about what to look out for in their community to make it stronger and safer. In Lorain County, we're also forming a disaster mental health team so that when disaster strikes, we have the mental health professionals ready to help us survive and endure that kind of a tragedy. These organizations all are working together with existing organizations. We're not reinventing the wheel. It's part of the Ohio Emergency Management and Homeland Security's office, the Ohio Community Service Council, the Ohio Volunteer Association, the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, RSVP, along with the American Red Cross, Salvation Army, the volunteer agencies active in disaster, or VOAD. There is an opportunity on September 23rd also for people in the business community to get involved. There is a program that's going to be held at Elyria Manufacturing in cooperation with the American Red Cross so that businesses can find out how they can survive and, again, strengthen our infrastructure. So on September 11th, the Ohio Citizen Corps is going to launch its first annual Citizen Corps sign-up day throughout the state of Ohio. Actually, today, Governor Taft is having a press conference just like this one to get as many citizens involved in that day. There's lots of different ways that people can get involved. They can go to any one of our local McDonald's and sign up there. They can call the Volunteer Action Center at 240-1990. They can also call the 1-800-VOLUNTEER number, which is the Points of Light Foundation, and get prompts at that point, or they can log onto their computer at www.serveohio. I have a full press release and a list of all those McDonald's restaurants. If you have an interest in those, Alice has them at the ready. Be glad to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mark. Is there anyone who has a question? The young man in the back is from the Chronicle. If you make sure he gets a copy of your press release.
Great. And we want to really commend the Chronicle. They did a wonderful job on preparedness just in yesterday's paper, and our own Alice Weber is prominently featured in this.
They already did it. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, we'll move on to resolutions.
Under Resolutions, number 1, Job and Family Services bills.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Investments.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Yes. Could I see numbers 1, 2, and 12 again? I don't believe I signed them. Maybe I think I have some questions. Let's see. I just had a question with Jim. If he could explain that to me. I didn't see an explanation, that's why I was kind of questioning what it was for.
We, in the past, these are just settlements when people come in and file against their assessed value, and if there's changes made, we need to increase or decrease the appropriations in those accounts. John, I'm assuming that's the housekeeping measures being taken with those?
So those deductions from the accounts due to the disputes?
Right, well, this
Is that what
one,
that is?
right. They're not usually significant funds. I mean, one of them is for for $110. So that's just to raise and lower the appropriations that's necessary to balance out those accounts.
Okay. That's the only questions I had.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks.
Any further discussion?
None. Did you want to sign?
I already did, didn't I? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just had questions.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Advances and repayments.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Requisitions.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Yes. Number 1467 and 1468. I got a little bit of discussion out of Jim on that one earlier. That's coming out of what account? Because it said general fund on there, but then,
John, the specific ones that Commissioner Moore is addressing is the module furniture in the clerk of court's office. I looked at that briefly on Tuesday, since Monday was a holiday. I just assumed it was coming out of Mr. Nabokowski's funds.
It's the general fund, his department is in the general.
Right, but it's coming out of his, that money derives from fees?
Yes, yes, the source for that would be fees and other revenues that he has, that's correct.
yeah, but is it coming out of, because in his budget, he comes out of the general fund budget, okay?
Correct,
Now,
which
does
he
he-
is a part of,
Right.
and as Mr. Corden said, he's
Right,
correct.
I mean,
It comes out of fees that he.
It's like the recorder's office generates funds too. I'm just saying, is there a separate account that's another millage account, or not millage, but a revenue account that he has special coming in, or is this coming out of the overall general account?
Yeah, is this like DRETAC and RETAC, so forth?
Right.
So,
It's part of the overall, his garnering of funds is part of the general fund, and then his department on the appropriation expenditure side comes out of those general revenues. But it is, I think the important point is it's allocated and budgeted in his accounts.
Yeah, but
So he does
this
have
is
the
all
money.
new furniture for the Justice Center, so I don't think it was budgeted. You're talking $15,000 worth of furniture, $16,000 worth of furniture.
Well, it may not be budgeted specifically for that furniture, but he has money in that generic account, which he would be permitted to use. In other words, that furniture, when it was budgeted, equipment could have been used for any type of furniture as long as it is part of that equipment account, furniture account. So it doesn't necessarily legally have to be budgeted for Justice Center equipment. He has a generic account called equipment, which he can charge for various assortments.
But it doesn't say which
of
account
items.
it's coming out of. Is that coming out of an equipment account?
It
or
would be
anything?
come out of the equipment account, which he could use for various purposes, that's correct, including Justice Center if he so desired, and the board approved.
Well, I know. I'm just trying to figure out what's better, to have it come out of that account or to have it come out of the excess funds that we have, excess savings from the Justice
Fair.
Center.
Well, that would be
Yeah.
totally a commissioner decision. I mean, it could be paid out of the commissioner's accounts, for example. It probably would not be popular,
Well,
but...
salaries
the-
accounts too, but, I'm just saying, have we ever resolved the issue on the excess funds?
Oh, years.
Yeah, it will be soon. Do we discuss anything regarding the excess funds, how that can be applied? Because if we can't apply it back on the debt,
I'm still waiting on a, well, we can apply it back on a debt, just for discussion points. Let's revisit it. My understanding verbally from bond counsel is that you can do it on a prorated share. That is a percentage of what was borrowed versus a percentage of what was paid from the general fund. So on a basis of something that's easy to do the math on, $40 million, if $20 million was financed and $20 million was paid in cash, and there was $10 million left over, then 5 could go to bond retirement, and 5 could go back to the general fund. So it has to be on a 50-50 split. We run into a bit of a difficulty with the amount of savings that we've had.
we haven't saved it yet because we still want to do the parking lot.
Right, but I believe at the end of the day, Commissioner, when Phase 4A, because Phase 4B is the green space, which will come in late in the spring, I still believe we're going to have a significant amount of savings. We're paying for Phase 4A with the savings from the completion to Phase 4 of the Justice Center, so there's no additional cost to the taxpayers or general fund dollars or borrowing dollars needed, but there's still going to be some retained savings at the end of 4A and 4B. I wrote quite an extensive letter to bond counsel and requested that they address several issues of how those funds could be possibly used for various things associated with the Justice Center. And once I have that back, I think we can have a more fruitful dialogue, and I will absolutely share that opinion with you so you can look it over and see how we can better deal with those dollars.
Okay.
I had anticipated having that letter, but John knows the letter that we sent for and the questions that we asked.
Yeah, there's several questions there.
Okay. So this money here is going for the Justice Center, but coming out of an equipment account? So when
That's
will that
that's
come?
it
Will
in a
that-
nutshell,
This is a
Commissioner.
requisition, so when we see it come through as a transfer,
Yeah,
Will
Mr.
you-
Nabokowski has
will you make
chosen
sure
to pay
that-
for it out of his account. I
okay.
think that's...
Can you make a little flag and we'll look at that probably, when's that gonna come back up then? Next week?
Whenever the requisition comes, or
Okay.
the purchase order comes through.
Okay. I'll make a note too. Hopefully we'll see how that comes through.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Travel expenses?
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Yes. Numbers 647, 649, and 651. We have individuals driving to Toledo for a seminar in middle of September. Yet we have the same seminars being offered in Cleveland, which is only 30 minutes away instead of 2 hours away. I just had an issue of having our employees driving to Toledo instead of Cleveland. I didn't know if there was a reason why they weren't going to Cleveland on the 27th of October.
Why don't you pull it up real briefly? I didn't know either. I mean, I signed that travel request. I made some changes to the issues that were expensed, but I didn't look at whether there was other locations available. There should be a list on the
Pass them right
back.
up to me.
This-
One of them isn't, one's different, but that's.
Okay, because I was gonna say one is different.
Yeah.
Did you see that there were other locations?
There's 3 locations, Columbus,
Right
Columbus,
down here.
Toledo.
August 30th. Oh, wait a minute. Let me guess, they already went.
Well, I won't say anything, Commissioner.
Okay, who's this? Personnel, that's... Oh, she already went, huh?
No, I don't think, did she already go, or is it?
Well, August 30th.
Yes, it's for
Yes.
8:30
Okay,
is
I'm
the
sorry.
date on it.
Boy, I don't know how I missed that one. I guess I'm still in August. Okay.
Well, the thing is, how are we approving them after the fact?
Very good question.
Discussion.
What's the date stamp on that?
August, this is August 12th, the requisition, expense, August 18th and August 18th, but
We didn't have a meeting in
August,
between, right?
they were just time stamped in on August 26th, so it should have went to the 9-2 board, though you didn't have a board meeting, so. But it's still after the fact, if you go 9-2.
It was a no-cost travel, though, right?
No, one was $7, one was $27, and one was a no cost. But that's not happening until October 22nd.
All right, so the ones that occurred was for $7.
One was 7, one was 27.
But 4 hours each in the car for each employee.
Well, no, the employees traveled, well,
That's okay. It's already after the fact, so. I'm done talking.
Any further discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
I with my exceptions of 647, 649, and 651.
Bills?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Never done this before. How do we do exceptions on bills?
Just accept whatever
I'll tell you what,
page number
I just make,
and
I'll tell you what, I'll make an exception to what I didn't sign.
the whole page
Yep.
on them.
Okay?
Page 15, 16, 17, 18,
It might help if those
Please don't come in
pages.
again on Wednesday afternoon.
20.
And I apologize for locking them in my office to slow down your day too. So,
It might help
Okay.
if we were to page those recaps from here on out.
are they okay?
Well, I've
No
got,
page numbers.
Yeah, they are.
they are,
aren't they?
they are. I've got
Oh,
15,
on the
16,
bottom?
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So you're making exceptions
Yep.
to all those?
Yeah.
Number 9, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, number 10, receive and index items that were entombed for Lorain County Time Capsule on September 1st, 2004, to be opened September 2nd, 2029, and September 2nd, 2054.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, why are we doing this?
Well,
Why do we have to have a resolution for,
going back to all the other time capsules
yeah?
throughout the state, it's always been documented just in case the building wasn't there, the Commissioners' journals are safekeeping and microfilm, so somebody could
Oh,
find it.
okay.
So that was the only
I don't think
reason
there's a
behind
formal
it.
requirement.
But,
It's just-
no,
I'm just wondering, what's index? What are you doing by indexing?
That's just a list of what's
all
there.
the items that were
Sorry.
entombed.
Nobody's reading this stuff.
I just want to make sure, I just...
Yeah, yours says various items, because
Well,
nobody
okay,
knows.
good, that's fine. 'Cause some of my humor isn't funny today, but might be 25 years from now, so. Okay.
Doubt it.
Had a good one.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Award contract to Albert Building Company, Elyria, in the amount of $66,575 for the demolition of buildings located at 352 to 358 Commerce Court, 330 3rd Street, 248 through 354 2nd Street, and 336 2nd Street, Elyria, Ohio. 2 bids were opened on September 3rd, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications. Issue a notice to proceed letter effective on or before September 27th, and to complete work on or before November 25th. Authorize county administrator to notify county auditor to release retainage at said completion of project, and this will be paid from account 40004-0201-491501 Justice Center.
So moved.
Jerry, I have a question.
Second.
I think I would feel comfortable abstaining from this since one of my relatives works for Mr. Alberts.
You probably don't have to, but if you feel uncomfortable with that, then that would be the best thing to do.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the demolition of all the buildings?
Yes, sir, it was quite an aggressive bid. We anticipated spending quite a bit more money on dropping those buildings.
Did, okay, so this is all of them, correct? Looks like, and just,
Yes,
since all these buildings have names and we don't really know their addresses, but, you know.
it's 5 buildings in total. Is that
Okay.
what we have listed here?
Yes.
5, yep. Okay.
Any further discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
I abstain.
Number 12, Lorain County Manufacturing Council requests funding in the amount of $80,000 for the council to enable manufacturers to strategically direct development and create an advocacy group around the key employer base within Lorain County. The council will aggregate resources to facilitate members to learn new manufacturing techniques and best practices and allow them to come to the table and seek assistance from their peers as well as their local governments. And Mr. Bukowski is here.
Mr. Butkowski has forwarded a copy of his proposal to each of the commissioners. John, would you like to address the board?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to give you a brief overview as to how we came about to come up with the concept of Manufacturing Council. A little over 9 months ago, Mr. Lance Healy, who's with me here, Lance is with one of the Glide companies, the incubator companies at Lorain County Community College. Lance called me because a friend who he had talked to suggested that he might want to speak about one of the concerns he has with me because he thought that I shared the same concern. It had to do with the manufacturing drain that we are seeing in the state of Ohio and more importantly here in Lorain County. We've seen approximately 3,500 jobs disappear from the manufacturing scene. In fact, this morning in the Chronicle Telegram, there was an article about Emerson that they are following through with their plans of doing away with the manufacturing jobs at the former Lorain Products / Marconi. That's going to start in October and probably be phased out by the first quarter of next year. This concern that Lance shared with me was a common concern. And we said, you know, we've got to do something to stop this. So the two of us spent probably about 8 or 9 months working on this project. We then had Mr. Greg Powers, who's also a resident of Lorain County. He came forward to offer some assistance. And we put together what we thought was a very unique plan for Lorain County. There's nothing like it in the state of Ohio that we could tell. We have done some research and found that there are some similar programs in other states that are working quite effectively. So we thought this might be a worthwhile venture to explore. One of the problems I think that we have here is we have a lot of people that are trying to help with economic development. You know, Mr. Twining's group, Lorain County Economic Development, is doing a great job. Lorain County Chamber of Commerce is doing their thing. But what we're lacking is manufacturing expertise dealing with the manufacturing base. Sunday's Chronicle just had some interesting statistics published in a big article. And we've basically lost 2.5% of our manufacturing base from 2000 to 2003. And in talking with these manufacturers, it's kind of interesting what you find out. I spoke with a manufacturer in Lorain approximately 8 months ago. And what he told me was quite interesting. He said, I'm going to be losing 40% of my business within the year. He says, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I've got a small base of people, but yet I'd like to continue business. This is a young business. We'd like to keep going, but I don't know what I'm going to do. Where does somebody like this turn? He's looking for actual help regarding the particular products that he manufactures. I gave him some suggestions on some things that were available to him, some possible prospects, etc. I ran into another manufacturer who's in making power supplies, a high-tech venture. He wants to move into a different venue. He wants to get into a different venue of power supplies. He needs some help. What, you know, Lance and I were then discussing is the fact that, you know, if we could form a manufacturing council that would be basically focusing on the manufacturing sector, We're not going to be duplicating any efforts that are existing in the county, but focusing on that sector, what we could do is to possibly be more effective in helping these manufacturers prevent them from getting into problems that will result in them having to leave the county and lose, the effective manufacturing jobs we have here. I provided the commissioners like an executive overview with the value proposition that, we felt that this would actually bring, to the county. And we had a manufacturing forum meeting. This was held the first part of July at Lorain County Community College Spitzler Conference Center. Was attended by approximately 37 manufacturers, and they were unanimous in their feeling that something like this would definitely be a benefit to them to help keep them productive and keep the jobs here in Lorain County. We can't afford to lose any more jobs. We think this is a fresh approach. This is a unique approach. We think, again, as I mentioned earlier, this could be a pilot program that could be taken throughout the state of Ohio based on its effectiveness. The game plan that we've put together is that we need funding basically for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, we want to be self-funded. That is the proviso that we're setting forth for ourselves. So this isn't a case where we're coming to Lorain County commissioners and saying, we want you to fund us to infinity. This is not the case at all. We feel quite strong that, with some seed money to help us get started, we think this thing can take off and basically pay for itself and, again, provide the necessary jobs that we need here in the county to provide the tax base to provide the services for our citizens. Mr. Healy is with me. If I may, I'd like to ask Lance to say a few words.
Thank you for allowing us the time in the audience. When I started the council idea, it really formed working with the Chamber of Commerce, Lorain County Chamber of Commerce, and also Patrick McCown Doyle with the SBA. And it was soon pretty apparent that it was growing beyond some of their auspices and was growing bigger than that. They encouraged and attended on our first charter forum meeting, and some of the manufacturers asked directly, well, why isn't this just a chamber function? And Patrick's, the response was that, well, this needs to have a specific focus with the resources and whatnot provided directly for the manufacturers. And that's definitely what we want to take. To give you a sense of some of the background and the history that we've done with this, Dr. Church from Lorain County Community College has offered use of space, also acting as our fiscal agent to preserve its nonprofit status. I've been meeting with, actually just on Tuesday, met with representatives of Team NEO, and they came out to visit with us to specifically learn more about what we were doing with our approach to Lorain County Manufacturers Council. They're taking a lot of the principles and the programs that we've got designed, that we've put together over the last year, and are taking them back and looking at implementing some of the same things for all of the Team NEO purposes. A lot of work has been done in terms of time investments from a lot of different people. My own company sponsoring as much as we could bear as a startup company in technology. And it's to the point where we have some other events that we're trying to get planned, to get promoted. We have an evening, as a result of our first charter forum meeting, the members identified that politics and learning more about trade practices and foreign trade practices was a key issue. To that end, our next meeting is actually bringing Congressman Sherrod Brown in, who's very much in favor in the council as well, but is giving him the opportunity to talk directly with Lorain County manufacturers and take their message back to Washington. And that's kind of what we encourage is aggregating the manufacturers to give a voice, to provide information back to anyone who wants it, that can use it, to help the manufacturers. So if it's getting the information or to the chambers, to any boards that need it, but having an aggregated resource to tap as needed for the county. Thank you.
You have something further, John?
No, I just want to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to present our case, and hopefully you will see the benefits and would be able to help us support and keep manufacturing here in Lorain County vibrant like it once was. Thank you again.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Romex, Oberlin. I should certainly think that the Oberlin people will be very interested in this council. How does one contact them? Is there a phone number or something of that sort? And then I have another question.
The council can be contacted by contacting Banyan Technology at Lorain County Community College. Email addresses are probably the easiest to remember. It would be L. Healy, that's Healy, at Banyan, BANYANTECHNOLOGY.com, BanyanTechnology.com, or myself, J. Butkowski, BUTKOWSKI, at bright, BRIGHT.net.
That's easier than phone numbers?
It's easier to catch people with
Oh, yeah.
email.
Okay, great.
And then my other question is again, as usual, curiosity. In which way or how will this interact with or interface with our own community development department?
That's a very good question, Elizabeth. Ron, would you like to respond to that?
Sure. I'm Ron Twining, the Community Development Director for the Board of County Commissioners. The proposal was first floated through our office and reviewed by both Mr. Barker and Peggy Pollock of our staff. I have not been in on any of the meetings other than the discussion from the staff. The recommendation of the staff is that while maybe 4 years ago this county had enough and adequate funds to fund this as this request was submitted, times have changed. We feel that the county commissioners are committing funds to Glide. This is a company that is, or an operation that is going through the Glide operation, which we are funding to a large extent. And while it's an outstanding program that's much needed to assist manufacturing and we support their efforts, we're not sure at this point that the funding to the tune of $80,000 should come from the county taxpayers. That's our recommendation, that the funding not be through the county, but rather through the manufacturers themselves that will receive direct benefit. However, if it is the direction of the Board of County Commissioners that we administer this, we'll be more than happy to administer it as you direct, because that's a policy decision. Whether funded or not, we have made a commitment to continuing to work with both Glide and the Manufacturing Council.
This won't be administered through your department. The money will just come from the general fund directly to them.
We probably would be the ones that worked with Mr. Rokasi to issue the check, but that would, as far as the check writing process, that's how we typically follow those things since it's an economic development activity. Does that answer the question?
I believe it does. Thank you, Ron.
I have one question while you're standing there, Ron.
Sure.
Marconi and the loss of those jobs, are they now getting a tax abatement from the county?
Marconi's located in several places. I'm not sure whether there's any that are specifically for the county. North Ridgeville would be one place that we'd have to go back and look. I'm not aware at this point, just off the top of my head, that we're giving any tax abatement. The majority of the jobs are in Elyria and Lorain, and they run their own tax abatement programs, as I understand. But North Ridgeville, there was a facility there, so I'll check on that and get back to the commissioners. Okay?
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Lance, did you want to?
I did. Just a point of clarification. Glide and my company, Banyan Technologies, is absolutely completely independent of any of this, the council formation or operations. And I don't want that to be misconstrued at all. Any of the funding request is absolutely wholly and 100% for the council, its development and its seed capital. My company, we just signed a huge deal. We're doing fine, and are happy to report we're going to be hiring more tech jobs in Lorain County. But I just want that to be clear. This is absolutely independent of GLIDE, which is for innovation and development. This is a completely separate entity and focus.
Thank you.
If there are
David?
any other questions or clarification, I've never spoken with Mr. Twining directly, so just want to bring that up.
I believe David has a comment.
David Ashenhurst of Oberlin. I appreciate both the questions and the answers that have just come up after that presentation, and it does strike me that to the extent the commissioners are interested in making a commitment of this size, with the understanding that there will be two similar requests in the next couple of years, and having heard Mr. Twining's perspective on how this should be done and how it should be funded, just 2 points of housekeeping occur to me. One is that it would be nice if this council had something of an email address that was for the council rather than people at companies as the way to get in touch with this enterprise. I assume if you write a check, it's going to be to something that is not one of these companies, but is this separate council. And I also hope that to the extent funds are considered from the general fund, that at least the commitment is considered in light of commitments made by the general fund to such things as the Chamber of Commerce. I realize there's an extent to which this doesn't duplicate what the Chamber is doing, but I submit that as the commissioners have interacted with the Chamber over the years, I think the commissioner's expectation was for some time that this was handled by Chamber functions, so that perhaps as funds are committed to this, the commissioners will consider the funds that it commits to the Chamber and say, well, so the manufacturing community would like some of these funds made specifically available to manufacturing interests that were previously supervised by the Chamber as a whole. So I guess the question is your total commitment to manufacturers growing by $80,000, or is some of it being redirected, at least for future periods, from the Chamber to a council that could have been handled as a council of the Chamber rather than as an independent freestanding council? So I hope, that your considerations of that at least take some of that into account.
Unfortunately, we already wrote the check. Instead of doing it in quarterly installments, we wrote one big check to the Chamber this year, which I supported and I now regret. But anyway, the fact remains that this council is going to help everybody countywide, not just areas of concern for the Chamber. What I like about this, it is a countywide effort. I disagree with Mr. Twining's logic that if anybody's in trouble, it's manufacturing. And if manufacturing could fix it, they would, but they're in trouble. And I think we have an excellent economic development package for this county. We've received numerous awards for its innovation. The news today that we've lost 2.5% of our jobs from 2000 to 2003 is disturbing. And I like the fact that the business community got together and formed this. Now, my question is, the $80,000, because David made a valid point, I don't think it's going to a company, but have you guys formed the necessary paperwork for a separate entity? Do you already have that completed? Do you know what I'm saying? It's not a 501(c)(3), is it?
Let me explain the situation. Number one, this is the chicken and the egg thing, okay?
I agree.
Dr. Church has agreed to help us set up as a not-for-profit organization. We would physically be located at Lorain County Community College. We'd have an office presence. We would have a telephone number, an email address. It would not be Lance's company or my company. But at this point, Lance and I have been putting in our own personal time, and if anyone does want to contact us, that's the only way you can do it presently. We can't accept any checks right now. For instance, we would like to go out to the manufacturing community and ask them to start signing up memberships. But at this point, we can't have them write a check out to Lance or John. It has to be the entity. So what we wanted to do is get a nod of approval from the county commissioners that yes, they would provide the seed money to get this going. With that in hand, we can then go to Lorain County Community College, set up the necessary fiscal paperwork, and get us established as an entity in Lorain County. So I hope that explains it. Also,
That explains it better.
to your question, the $80,000 was for the first year. We projected the second year we would need like $60,000, the third year only $30,000, but that's completely predicated on how fast we can, grab our manufacturing membership base. Hopefully, we can speed this process up and be self-funded within 2 years, but at this point, we said, let's be realistic in what we think we can accomplish, but we want to go as fast as we can.
It would seem to me, as another thought, David made reference to the chamber. What about GLIDE? We substantially fund GLIDE. How about getting some of your assistance through them other than just a place to locate?
Well, the space that Dr. Church has offered is actually independent of the whole GLIDE area. It's in a different area of the college and completely separate of GLIDE.
I think what Commissioner Blair was referring to is the fact that we fund them with quite a bit of money.
Sure.
And maybe some of those funds can be directed towards this account. I'm in support of funding the whole thing, but that's a valid point. There's been some changes over at GLIDE since the original concept. I would be in support of funding the first year and maybe having GLIDE pick up the other 90,000.
Sure.
Have the commissioners come up with the 80 and have GLIDE come up with the other 90. Since it's the county's money that's going in there.
Absolutely.
And since, this is just something, I know you'd like to see 3 years funded today and be done, but I think if we can help you with getting it started, I'd like to be a part of it. But maybe, like I said, we still have to work on our budgets for next year.
And
Commissioner,
just under your council organization, it says it's established a community partnership with the commissioners, Lorain County Community College, Lorain County Chamber of Commerce, which we fund, and GLIDE, which we fund, and local manufacturing businesses. Jim?
I don't know which way the board's going to go on this decision, but one of the things when I read through the proposals, we don't have a seat on that board either. I need to point it out to you. And I find that rather problematic. So if the board's going to provide funding, I think we need to be at the table too. We do have a presence on the Chamber of Commerce. We do have a presence on GLIDE. And in their whole proposal omitted any presence for us other than getting our money. All right, so I find that rather disturbing.
That can be remedied very, very.
Well, I think it probably should have been part of the proposal. All right, when you ask somebody for money, you obviously want them as a partner, but
Sure.
then you don't give them a seat on the board, and you march off with their money and not any of their opinion.
Well, that happens a lot in government anyway, so.
That's a
Behind you wants to speak.
David?
What?
Commissioner,
Not that David.
Commissioner Moore, I'd just like to respond to something Commissioner Moore said for just 1 second. I think to the extent there is a chicken and egg situation here and the commissioners are asked to fund the chickens and the eggs haven't even been sort of established in law yet, Commissioner Moore made reference to a 501c3, and that is what Lorain County Community College would create out of itself. I mean, that's the kind of fiscal birthing that they do. The Chamber of Commerce is also a tax-exempt entity under Section 501c. I believe it's under 501c6, which is a business league. It is not tax deductible in the same way as a public charity, but I submit a council of manufacturers might be better fiscally agented through a business league than through the community college. So I definitely agree with Commissioner Moore that to the extent this can be structured as some sort of a commitment to a concept without locking down, and of course we don't know what the proposal looks like, nor necessarily should we, but that I hope that to the extent that commissioners have leverage in the way this thing is structured, I hope it stays a business league and not a charity, basically. Thank you.
I anticipate this being a business league, and the less bureaucrats touching it, the better, so.
Further questions or comments?
I'm not gonna talk about that.
Well, myself, I've never supported the chamber. I've always felt like it's a business membership and that those business people are the ones that support it. It's like a business club. And I don't see actually where they really contribute to people that are not in their club. And that's why I've never supported them. But I would prefer supporting something like this because I know that it is needed. Manufacturers are needed in the county. Manufacturers do need help. They need to know how to import, how to export. And a lot of small businesses, manufacturing businesses, don't have this knowledge. They don't know how to get past the customs and all the rigmarole and red tape of government. So if we do fund this, I would like to see it reviewed annually before the next year's funding is given to the company. But you don't have your nonprofit organization put together yet, your corporation.
That's correct.
So I don't know how long that would take.
But I think what you're doing is if we can commit today to funding this after the creation, as long as you know that the funding is coming, I think then everything can go forward. So you're looking for more of a resolution, and we can somehow put in the resolution not to fund this until the existence of the council. Problem is you can't create the council without knowing you're going to have some sort of funding.
That's correct.
So if we can somehow, what you just read, the resolution, to make sure that funds are not to be released until
The council's established.
until council's established.
Are you also going to ask for a seat on this steering committee?
I'll recommend that the president of the Lorain County Commissioners be on that council. I would recommend that on the board, or in this motion that I'm making, okay?
I would like to
That
see
I'm adding to
quarterly
yours.
reports too.
Yeah, the problem, I think quarterly reports are fine. The problem that we're gonna have here is, once this gets started, you're probably talking 60 days out. It'll be done, and then we're gonna be fighting over our budget for next year in '05. And then there'll be 2 new commissioners that might change that budget. So, I think, I mean, unless someone's willing to fund the whole thing, which I think, I like the idea of Glide maybe coming up with the other 60%. You know, the commissioner's coming up with 40, because it's the same money. You know, so I think right now you have to prove to yourself the 80,000, and the 80,000 will probably be good for about a year, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Which will be '05. So we're pretty much funding '05. So we won't even be in effect for the budget until '06 budget.
I'd like to see
So-
the chamber pitch in too, because the way it stands right now, any manufacturer that wants to get help from the chamber more than likely would have to become a member of the chamber and contribute to them.
Well, I can't even get a document from the chamber, so
I know.
good luck getting money. Anyway,
But it's our money.
Yeah.
They should contribute to this organization where people wouldn't have to become a member and pay into their membership and this membership.
I agree. That's why I think we're
And we'd like to
create our own.
to
so.
support our other money from other areas, once we have some initial seed capital
Okay.
from the manufacturers themselves. This is for them, it's designed for them, by them.
And you'll be working in conjunction with them and we also have a county alliance too,
Mhm.
that I think would be appropriate for you to
Okay.
participate in. We also, so the motion has this, what you read. You have the add-on on the establishment of the council,
Correct.
and that
Recommend the president of the board
and that the
be-
president of the Lorain County Commissioners have a seat, and that would be one of the conditions in order to, for the commissioners to participate.
But I've
For
seen
the
a
year
lot of
2005.
What's that?
For the year 2005. That's what we're doing, right? The money's for the year
No.
2005. You're not doing that.
The money's probably going to be in the next 60 to 90 days.
Well, depending on when they get the corporation
Right,
formed.
right.
But I've seen too in the past that commissioners are assigned to sit on a board, and then they're never reminded that they're supposed to be on that board, and consequently, they don't sit on the board anyway. But how do you remind them
Well,
of
no,
all
as
the
long as-
boards that they sit on?
No, the board will be,
We'll have regular
yeah, they'll have-
communications with board members.
Okay.
the president gets to go to all those meetings, don't they? So. That was my motion.
What was it again? Right by me again.
What she read, I added on the establishment of the council and the chairman of the commissioners be allowed to sit on the board.
Can we,
Madam
what was,
President?
Can we
what
make
did
that
you
as a
read?
recommendation? Or go ahead, Ms. I think
What I
Jerry-
read here at the
Oh,
beginning.
here.
Oh, here, wait a minute, I'm gonna withhold my motion right now. Jerry has something
Just-
to add.
Since we don't know yet what this organization is for sure, there are some nonprofits that the commissioners can fund. We have to make sure that when they are formed, they are the type of entity that we can legally fund. So I would add to a condition to that
That we can legally fund.
that the eventual organization that is formed has to be one that the commissioners can legally fund.
So if you can add that to the second part
And we,
and put that in there, based on the
about-
fact that,
what
I'll
about
just put on the
quarterly
why don't I just
reports?
say prosecutor's approval? Okay.
What about quarterly reports?
They'll do that. That's just, there's all sorts of stuff we're gonna be asking for. I'm not,
That
my
should be
thing is,
in the, that should be in the resolution.
yeah, if you
then.
want it in there, add it in there. As a motion?
That's your motion.
Okay.
And amended to put the quarterly reports in.
Yep.
Okay. I'll second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Thanks for coming in. And good luck.
Under Community Development Department, number 13, instruct the clerk to advertise for bids for Ma Needing Park Phase 2 ADA Playground Project, Amherst, Ohio. This notice will be published in the Morning Journal on September 10th and 17th, and bids to be open at 2 p.m. on September 24th in the Commissioners' Public Hearing Room.
So moved.
Well, second.
Discussion?
I don't know, I see the Safety Service Director from Amherst is here. Do you have anything to add to this, or? No? Okay. Okay.
We'd like to meet the Safety Service Director, since David knows him, but the rest of us don't appear to. Come up to the microphone and introduce yourself. Be careful what you ask.
Well, you kind of went to the wrong college, I think.
Oh dear, that means he must have gone to Ohio State.
Well, I didn't come dressed this morning to speak at a public forum, but my name's Dennis Klotz. I'm the Safety Service Director in Amherst, Ohio. And the project that you just discussed, I think it's a good one. We're looking to do as many things as we can with our parks and our recreations in Amherst. And this is my first commissioners meeting, so it's interesting. And thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks for coming down.
I think, Ron, I think the reason we're doing this is because it's CDBG funds. That may not be apparent to everybody out here, but that's why we're involved with it. It's an ADA CDBG funded project through the county, and Amherst is one of our entities that we do CDBG for. I don't see that, it's not in our resolution, so I just wanted to explain that for the audience participation.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Dennis.
Nice meeting you.
Do we have a motion?
So
Yes, we
moved.
do. I
Oh.
just was going to call for further discussion.
Okay.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Award a change order to Class Construction, Inc., Avon Lake, Ohio, for additional emergency home repair assistance for Daryl and Alice Schwartz, 366 Taylor Street, Amherst Township, in the amount of $125 to replace a rotted bathroom subflooring under the toilet and tub. Resolution 04549 approved the homeowner's assistance in the amount of $6,250 for ADA bathroom work, but the additional assistance will increase the contract to $6,375 to be paid from account 22403-2601 for 50201.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Award a contract to R.A. Joseph Construction, Inc., Avon, in the amount of $121,450 for the installation of an elevator in Columbia Township's Township Hall. 3 bids were received on August 13th, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications. Issue a notice to proceed, a letter effective on or before September 9th, and to be completed on or before January 31st, 2005. Authorize county administrator to notify county auditor to release retainage at site completion of project. This project will be paid from CDBG FY 2003 funds in the amount of $91,000, and the remaining balance will be paid by Columbia Township.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Under Job and Family Services, approve and enter into various lease agreements to be paid from account 20501-0903-451201. One is to Lorain County Child Support Enforcement Agency for offices located at 42485 North Ridge Road, Elaria. This lease is for a period of 1 year effective retroactive to July 1st, ending June 30th, 2005. The rental amount for FY 2005 is $119,860 or $9,988.33 monthly at $732 per square foot, which is based upon the space cost study report compiled by Maximus Inc. 2, Lorain County Department of Job and Family Services for offices located at 42485 North Ridge Road, Elaria. This lease is for a period of 1 year effective retroactive to July 1st, ending June 30th, 2005. The rental amount for FY 2005 is $424,226.04 or $35,352.17 monthly at $715 per square foot, which is based upon the space cost study compiled by Maximus.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Approve and enter into various child daycare center contracts for Lorain County Department of Job and Family Services effective September 1st through December 31st, 2004. Maximum amount reimbursed for a child enrolled is based upon state reimbursement ceilings. Authorize the Director of Job and Family to execute on behalf of the Board with the prosecutor's approvals to form 1. Harbortown Day Nursery School, Vermillion, 2. Wellington Country Day Preschool, Wellington, and 3. At Kids Place, North Olmsted, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
In number 8, there is a correction. It is an actual renewal. It's not going to be renewed again. So we're going to approve and enter into a renewal contract between Lorain County Department of Job and Family Services and Dunbar Armored Inc., Valley View, Ohio, to provide the courier service at an annual cost of $3,432. This courier service will carry a locked bag containing checks and monies between Lorain County Child Support Enforcement Agency at 42485 North Ridge Road, Elaria, and Lorain National Bank at 42935 North Ridge Road, Elaria, effective September 1st, 2004 through August 31st, 2005. The cost of the service will be $286 per month. This contract will be paid under Bureau of Support Contract Services Code 28501-0904-450101.
Madam Clerk, for the record, you said number 8, you meant number 18.
Excuse me, number 18. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Under Solid Waste Management, approve funding in the amount of $250,000 over and above the budget amount of $1.2 million to be divided among the political subdivisions in Lorain County that will be applying for funding for the recycling programs to be paid from account 20201-5302-490802.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes. Is there a way that we can add this 250,000? The only reason why I didn't vote for the policy to be sent down, the whatever, the binder we had to sit down.
Plan.
The plan was because of the 250 that was taken away. Is there a way we can just, how much longer is that plan good for? 2 more years? 1 more year? Do you remember? 1 more year? Okay, so this is,
In the planning stages next year or so.
so next summer you're gonna be working on it?
Right.
Okay, then I was gonna advise we change the plan, but we'll worry about that next summer then. Okay, forget it. I just had an idea.
Any further discussion? Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Under Children's Services, number 20, authorize various additions and deletions of Lorain County Children's Services personnel to utilize their Shell Oil Gasoline credit card not to exceed $200 and the agency's MasterCard not to exceed $2,500 for the year 2004. Said usage of card is for purchase of gas, oil, and emergency motor vehicle repair for county-owned or leased vehicles, and employees will be listed in the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Yeah. Mr. Cortez.
Yes, sir.
In January of '01, I had a discussion regarding using the BP credit card.
I specifically remember those discussions.
Yes, about being not a very, how do we want to say this, community-friendly corporation due to the empty BP stations showing up. Reviewing the bills, I noticed that BP is still getting a ton of work from the engineer's office. And the sheriff's department uses their gas, they go over to the engineer's office to fill up, and it's all BP gas. Do we have any, other than just paying the bills, do we have any say in those two departments on how they receive their gas? Or could you check on that?
Oh, I can check on it. I'm sure
Because
that
that's-
we can persuade them not to use BP gas.
Well, I'm just saying because of the not being as community-friendly with the empty stations throughout the community, so.
I'm certain I can take care of that
Well,
for
if
you.
you could just check into it, I appreciate it. Thank you. This just reminded me of it.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Under Domestic Relations, approve Lorain County Domestic Relations Court Juvenile Court request for funding in the amount of $100,000 from Innovations in America Government Award. This will enable the court to continue the investigation and referral team, and no cash match is required from the county.
Question, Mr. Cortez, do you know, they sent us, Susan Ward sent us a correspondence that said they were $100,000 short.
Well,
Is this the same thing?
no, the number's similar. The 100,000 they were speaking to was in the indigent attorney defense, that
Okay.
they assigned court lawyers. You do realize the state is down to reimbursing a paltry 30% of their 50%
Yes,
commitment.
our partners in government.
Yeah, our partners, right. Our partners in bankruptcy. So we're going to be $100,000 short. I think Mr. Okersey brought a temporary appropriation to the board earlier for your review and approval, but that's going to be an ongoing issue, but it's a different issue. Thanks, Commissioner.
Is there any financial obligation on our part other than us approving them doing this?
Not at this time, Commissioner.
Thank you.
But my concern is is this a one-year funding project, or is it going to be a continued? Sometimes the state will give us money for a year, and then after that, we pick up.
Jim Wilkins from Domestic, and so is Deb Tansey's here.
Yeah, I appreciate your reply.
Good morning.
Morning, I'm Jim Rosecrans from Grants. And no, this is a one-year grant, and it's to fund the INR.
What happens after the year? Then we pick it up?
It's already being funded now, the INR team. The investigation referral team is already being funded by the county, split between general fund and reclaim at this time.
So you're seeking to make your dollars work better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Also move for approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Under the engineer, award a contract to Crossroads Asphalt in the amount of $77,465.81 for the Station Road Culvert 0532. 3 bids were received on August 23rd. This was the most responsive, complying with specifications. A notice to proceed letter will be issued effective on or before October 15th and to be completed on or before November 31st, 2004. Authorize county administrator to release, to notify the county auditor to release retainage at completion of said project.
Also move,
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Blair?
noting that November has 30 days only. Aye.
Oh, okay. That's what was the difference.
They did that when you were gone, don't worry.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Authorize the creation of Fund 411, Highway Planning and Construction. Said fund will reflect activity for various federally funded highway planning and construction projects carried out by the county engineer. This is to be implement the necessary procedures for recognizing these federal grant funds as recommended by the Auditor of State.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Rescind resolution number 04-631 adopted August 26, 2004, to set up a viewing and advertise for public hearing to remove a paper street located in Flint Ridge subdivision in order to access Eagles Nest Road to Durkee Road. This is being rescinded due to the procedural purposes and dates.
Is there a reason why this, I don't know why this came
Thank
up.
you.
Because last week it was on the agenda, or 2 weeks ago it was on the agenda for all this approval and setting up the dates. Well, by code, we have to set up dates according to certain procedures, and we have to notify the county engineer before dates are even
Oh, really?
addressed. And that was not done. So that's why I need to rescind it and start the whole process from the beginning all
You
over.
are going to do that.
It's already in.
That's
Oh,
because
okay.
our clerk had the audacity to take a day off, so
Yeah.
So moved.
appreciate
Don't
you
let
getting
it
that
happen
straight.
again, Teresa.
Second.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Blair? Under MRDD, award various bids on behalf of mental retardation and developmental disabilities to be paid from account 400050201491501 MRDDQ Construction. One is to attract a flooring ink area in the amount of $23,650 to remove and replace the pool decking material and fill in the wading pool to the height of the deck and cover with decking materials for the pool at Murray Ridge School. And two is to Metropolitan Pool Service Cleveland in the amount of $7,880 to sandblast, wash, and repaint the pool at Murray Ridge School.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Under the prosecutor, authorize the creation of Fund 284, Prosecutors Adult Diversion Program, in compliance with ORC 2935.36. Prosecutor's Office will utilize these funds to support the operation of the pretrial diversion program, i.e. staffing, supplies, etc.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Under the sheriff, instruct the clerk to advertise for bids in providing food service at the Lorain County Correctional Facility. The notice will be published in the Chronicle Telegram on September 13th and 20th, and bids to be opened at 2 p.m. on October 4th in the Commissioners' Public Hearing Room.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Receive and file the annual report submitted by Lorain County Sheriff in compliance with ORC 311.16 of all fines and costs collected for the year next preceding September 1st, 2004, in the amount of $278,118.97.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez, County Administrator?
No comments or reports this morning, thank you.
Mr. Ennis, Assistant County Prosecutor.
Just one brief update on a litigation issue I'd like to give the commissioners in an executive session, if we could.
Commissioners report.
Commissioner Vacy?
Jim, I just have a quick question. Have you heard any more from the Boys and Girls Club in regards to Green Acres?
My understanding from talking to various people on Green Acres is that they are no longer interested in pursuing Green Acres, that they've made other plans on facilities that work better for them.
Okay, I think we should have some communication with Oberlin because they had some suggestions for the building at one time. I mean, it's
Maybe I
been
should get-
vacant for too many years now.
Absolutely, and let me bring you an executive session because we're working on something through the courts right now. And let me bring you up to speed in the executive session on that because I don't want to divulge that right now. It's a matter of potential litigation that's allowed under the Sunshine Law to be discussed in executive, and I'll bring you up to speed of where we're at with that, okay?
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioner.
that's all I have, thank you.
Commissioner Moore?
I will reserve my comments for the public speaking session.
Are you going to get down from your chair, too?
Correct.
Oh, boy. Shall I go get my broom?
Just a shovel.
I don't have one.
Old business. There's none noted, but I had it on and I took it off. I just want to make comment in case anybody's here. The decision on the sewer project for 108 on East River, Carlisle, has been postponed at the request of Carlisle Townships until September 30th now. New business?
None.
I have none.
Well, there is one, since we had the public hearing at 9 a.m. It has been requested that the commissioners adopt the access management regulations as submitted by the Access Management Committee and be effective November 1st, 2004.
I haven't seen them.
It was circulated around some time ago.
It's during
Yeah, I don't have the date in front of me, but it was like April or May that it was sent over to all of the commissioners, all of the committee members. You've held a public hearing on July 22nd, and then there was a public hearing again today. I have a set here if you want it, Commissioner. November 1st.
I'd like to move for approval. Thanks, Ron.
I saw it. I go second for discussion. Now, on this, is my understanding that we're not adding in the compensation for people who lose. I believe you and Mr. Ennis had this discussion at the last meeting that you had at Columbia Township.
Who lose what?
When we were over in Columbia Township, we called for the committee members to meet. Only 5 showed up, but their recommendation was, in order to submit for a variance, there was no additional requirements for information that would cost the person applying for the variance, so there would be no need for a reimbursement by the county.
No, but my concern is it was I'm trying to remember this probably goes way back to, what, April we had this discussion? April or May?
July.
July, was it? My concern was that in order to override or to appeal the decision is when they would need an attorney.
Yeah, you wanted to pay for their attorney fees should
No,
they be
if
successful, right?
Yes, if they, this is where government's forcing somebody, you know, and I gotta go get the tape of the meeting.
This isn't a typical appeal in the fact that there's a public hearing and there's a fee filed by the person appealing the decision of an administration. So there's no additional cost. There is no requirement for the person appealing the administrative decision to bring an attorney to that meeting. So it's not typical like others. Now, we're bridging into a more of a legal question, so I would allow Mr. Ennis to answer any legal questions.
I did have a number of concerns with doing that, Commissioner. First of all, if we were to do something like that, we would put a burden upon this Board of Appeals to establish some kind of schedule or guidelines or criteria for determining what would justify awarding of fees. For instance, if somebody made an application, really this appeal process is designed for them to have some input and to ask for some changes or minor variations based on the uniqueness of their situation. Would we be getting into awarding fees every time somebody came in and you know, suppose they asked for 12 changes and we gave them 1? As Ron has pointed out, I don't think the intent of this Board of Appeals procedure is intended to be a litigation type operation. It's intended to give these people a quick fix to some issues that where an independent board can give them some minor variations. So I really see all kinds of legal complexities being added to it if we start doing that. Secondly, I think it would tend to actually defeat the purpose that you're seeking to achieve, and that is to help the individual get through the bureaucracy and to get their situation squared away quickly. If you put this Board of Appeals in an awkward situation, if they know ahead of time that granting the appellant's request in any respects would also subject the county to attorney fees, I think you're going to put a chilling effect on that board where they're going to be a lot less likely to grant variances, to grant some concessions to an owner if they know it's going to have that kind of a negative impact upon the county.
That was intended, that was my intention. So that the decision wouldn't be political, but, right, but that's all. That's what I was
Okay,
looking
well,
at.
those are just the concerns that I felt.
No, my
should
concern was
be-
that if it was a political board and people were playing games with the board, that's what my concern was, so that there'd be a risk and a reward for those decisions. But that was my intent, so.
Commissioners, if I might, I would like to point out just a couple of things before you consider the motion that's in front of you. This has been put together under the Ohio Revised Code 5552, and it has certain requirements of that regulation or of that code. We did have to hold 2 public hearings. Those have been held. We do have to have a recommendation from a committee that prepared the regulation, and that has been completed. The Board of Commissioners at a County Commissioners meeting in Wellington Township on, I believe it was September 25th, nearly a year ago, appointed the committee with all of the required positions under the Ohio Revised Code, plus you were only required to have 3 of the 18 townships be members of that, but you have appointed all 18 townships to participate in that process. As you consider this recommendation for these regulations, if by chance the Board of Commissioners votes against adopting these regulations, please understand that the Ohio Revised Code is clear. All 18 townships then are permitted to establish their own regulations, and we would have 18 driveway permitting processes to follow, plus a 19th, because the county engineer on county roads would establish, I'm sure, their own sets. And then we have the 20th in the fact that we have the state of Ohio on state highways regulating it. These regulations only affect the unincorporated portions of Lorain County, and it's only in the township areas on county and township regulations. We have put together the committee in an effort to have one set of regulations rather than as many as 20. So I just wanted to point that out, whether you vote today or at a following meeting, that is the likelihood should you not accept regulations.
Further questions?
Ron, what would that have to do with us if each individual township did their own thing?
It will greatly impact the county in terms of administering the county subdivision regulations and the county engineer in their adherence to the county subdivision regulation.
Okay,
And
thanks.
that's why we were involved. I mean, our department does the sub-regs with the engineer and other entities.
Thank you, Ron.
Sure.
Other questions or comments?
Um,
Speed reading.
Do you want to hold it? It's not detrimental to vote on it today, because it's been like 5 months since I've seen it. I'd like to review it again.
The only thing I wanted in here, that I wanted to get at, isn't in here. That's the only thing.
So can it be put in there?
It can be, but nobody else wants it in there. And Jerry thinks it's gonna be a legal nightmare, right?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Which we all know how those are, so.
I think it invites, I certainly understand the intent behind it, Commissioner,
Right.
but I just think that's going to turn over some stones that are going to cause more problems than it's going to correct.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Thank you.
Under Board Correspondence?
I move the reading be waived.
Second?
Discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Public comment?
Commissioner Moore?
There's others that,
I was giving deference to your age and your Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Romex Oberlin, not knowing what Mr. Moore has in mind, I thought I'd get in here first. I would just like to comment on the very good press articles on Mr. Keish's death and his life. And while I am sorry that the accident happened as it did, except for that outcome, it seems to me, what a way to go. He was in his Uncle Sam suit, he had been at the state fair, he had always has been urging voting and so forth and so on. And in many respects, not least from the lightheartedness that he sometimes gave us, he will be very much missed.
Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much,
you.
Elizabeth, for your
The
remarks.
second thing I would like to say is that thanks to Commissioner Vacy, I and several others had occasion to be on the guided tour for the dedication of the Justice Center. And it was very impressive, very informative. It's extremely interesting to see the security aspects of the building and the other aspects of it as well. And so I'm very grateful for that experience. Just the mechanicals on the upper floor alone were enough to make your mouth fall open almost down to the floor. However, I also had occasion to talk with a couple of the maintenance people there and learned that the building has white walls in very many areas, of course, and right now it is just absolutely sparkling clean. And I found myself wondering, I assume that there have been provision for adequate maintenance to keep the building in as pristine a condition as it is. Because as the public use it more and more, that's going to become something of a problem. So I just wish to urge that maintenance and custodians and cleaning people be as well supported as the county can possibly manage.
Thank you, Elizabeth. David Ashenhurst?
David Ashenhurst Oberlin, Commissioners, I also am curious about what Commissioner Moore is going to do, but I too wanted to record on the record Bob Kish's passing. If I had a necktie with the American flag on it or an Uncle Sam suit, I'd be wearing it. I didn't know that he was in his Uncle Sam suit. I will correct, with respect, Elizabeth's remark to one extent. He was coming back from the county fair, not the state fair.
Sorry.
And I was out of town for both the opening of the Justice Center and Mr. Kish's funeral, which, as far as I was concerned, unfortunately competed with that. With obviously nothing anyone could do about that. But my being out of town made me not have to choose between attending the opening of the Justice Center and Mr. Kish's funeral. So I'm glad that, because I couldn't be in two places at once, that I ended up not being in either of them. I also just learned that Mr. Kish also carried with him in that last ride a copy of a Rodney Dangerfield book. And I just learned this, and to me, there's something awfully fitting and poignant about that too, because I remember the Dangerfield line about I never get no respect and stuff, and Bob Kish got a lot of respect from me and a lot of other people, and I'm sorry I don't know whether he was 7 Cs or 8 Cs or 4 Cs or anything else at this point, but we are going to miss him and miss him at these meetings. And because the last meeting of the commissioners took place before, and I am glad that this meeting of the commissioners is reflecting that this closes a chapter for the commissioners and for the public comment section, and I will miss Mr. Kish very much. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Is there anyone else?
I'd like to congratulate the Chronicle and the Journal for their coverage, the Plain Dealer also. Knowing Bob, when I first took office, I got hooked up with him about 4 or 5 months, and so I got to know Bob quite well. Yeah, he looked very peaceful, at the funeral. And the phone calls that I mentioned the week before, well, knowing Bob, he would have loved the attention that he did receive. And he probably would have been screaming. I was waiting for him to sit up in the casket when he saw the commissioners in the same room without thinking it would be an illegal meeting. So, but he was a great guy. He was calling because he wanted to read a statement, so I thought it'd be appropriate to read the final. I might not be able to do this, so what I'm going to do is, let's see. This is all ad lib. So, anyway, knowing Bob, he pretty much left this on the clerk's phone number, and she typed this up, and this is dated August 26th. He passed away on the 29th. So, my name is Robert Kish, and I live in Elyria, Ohio. Today's question: is free speech really free? Not in Lorain County Commissioners meetings. They recently had a discussion on how people can get on the agenda. Clear as mud, like the muddy creek that I lived on. I would like to know, how do you get and stay on the agenda? I was taken off the agenda with no reason given, and they did not have the courtesy to even call, so I made a wasted trip. The same is true about receiving an agenda by fax. I would receive them and then they stopped. The reason is unknown. They gave many excuses, but never explained, and then my name was taken off the fax list. The amazing thing is that then they sent faxes to a man I have never seen at these meetings. It's a coincidence that they deleted me. We do have free speech and free agendas, but only to the chosen elite, which sounds very much like Bob. I chose to challenge this affront to free speech, especially us nobodies. Nobodies are legions, and yet you do not hear or see the injustice in this. With liberty and justice for all, not the chosen. And this was called in and read by Bob Kish on August 26th at 9 a.m. So I thought it was appropriate to read that. Thank you.
Very good, Dave. We go into executive session for the purposes outlined by the assistant prosecutor.
Second?
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Commissioners have reconvened from executive session.
I move that there be a modification to the employee summary sheet, being an addition of number 15,
I believe it's number 15, but I will.
or
double
whatever
check
the
if it's
next
not.
number is. In
Second.
addition.
Any further discussion?
Oh, no, don't we have to add it? Or did you just do that?
I did.
You just did
Oh,
that.
okay.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
I, with the exception of the last one,
Whatever the number is.
whatever that number is, 15, 14, whatever.
I move we adjourn.
One issue for the record.
Second, now discussion.
Well, it's not on this issue.
No, adjourn is
We did
the
check on the
next.
BP for your record, and it's state term contract. So unfortunately, we need to continue to get our fuel from
Unfortunately,
them.
the Irish lose again. Okay. Was it for whiskey, we'd be running the world.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
This morning.
Aye.
Mrs. Vacy?
Aye.
Adjourned.
What'd you have for breakfast?
Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Thursday mornings at 9:30 at the Lorain County Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and as always, you are invited to attend.
Unsightly litter is often the result of well-intentioned people like you and me being careless at the curb, around business areas, and at work sites. Lucky the Ladybug, Ohio's first lady of litter prevention, says nobody wants to live or work around trash. Litter lowers property values and it's costly to clean up.
Keep Lorain County beautiful. Put the lid on trash.
This is our 10th barn. Nope, sorry. This is our 11th barn.
It got kind of boring watching the grass grow, so we thought we'd come out and watch the paint dry.
Well, the Ohio Bicentennial Commission was born in 1995 by order of the Ohio General Assembly. They charged the commission with the duty of celebrating 200 years of Ohio history, culture, science, and the commission then began the task of planning a bicentennial celebration. The goal was always to include every Ohio county in the celebration, and to do that, it was a grassroots up instead of a top-down. It was more of a bottom-up approach to the bicentennial, starting with the communities. We couldn't tell Clark County what to do from Columbus, but Clark County could tell us what they had in mind for the bicentennial. So that was really the tack that we took when we sat down and said, how are we going to plan the bicentennial? The beginnings in each Ohio county was forming groups in each county, and that's where our regional people came in, and they helped kind of light the fire in each county for the bicentennial, and that was kind of hard back then. There was not a lot of kindling to light a fire for the bicentennial, as you can imagine, in 1997 and 1998. So we said, how can we get the word out? How can we spread the message of all things bicentennial? One of the original regional coordinators, her name is Nicole Moretti. Nicole is a wonderfully creative person from Meigs County, down in the Appalachian section of Ohio. They were at a meeting, and Nicole, out of the blue, said,
Barns make a lot of sense in my district. Can't you see this logo all over barns in rural counties all over Ohio?
And about the next thought everybody had in their mind was, great, how do we paint a barn?
The general consensus of the office was, if we could figure out how to do it, we would try it. But I called paint stores and I called all these places, and nobody seemed to know how to do that anymore.
So Nicole took it upon herself to see if it could go. And she was in, I forget what town it was.
Barnesville. And was in the Chamber of Commerce in Barnesville, and somebody had to take a phone call. And like any good former journalist, I read the stuff on the desk while I waited, and one of them was a Barnesville Enterprise, and on the front cover of the Barnesville Enterprise was a beautiful barn Scott had painted.
In the photo was a picture of a barn, and on the barn was a logo of the Ohio State University, painted by, at that time, 19-year-old kid.
And I didn't know it, but my grandfather snapped a picture of it, and he took it to Barnesville and had it developed. And then he took it over to the Barnesville Enterprise. And I didn't know he was doing this, but they saw a picture of it and liked it well enough to put on the front page of the Barnesville Enterprise.
And she took that front page. She immediately called the Ohio Bicentennial office in Columbus and said,
I found him, he's real, and I'm in Barnesville.
It fell into place with Nicola coming down at the right time, because that barn of ours had been on the front page of the Barnesville Enterprise.
And with that, she went off to find our barn painter.
I think we ended up having conversations over the phone for the next month, on and off, and then finally I went up to Columbus, and we talked about doing one barn in every county in the state.
If you go back and look at our announcement of the project back then and the press releases, our goal was to paint at least one barn in each county. We didn't say we were going to do it because we didn't know if we were going to do it. We didn't know if Scott was going to do it. We didn't know if we wanted his logo on every barn. Was he good enough? Did he have the talent? Did he have the skills? Did he have what it took to travel from every county in Ohio? I mean, we're talking about a kid.
We had discovered Scott, and we decided that we wanted to attempt this and see how it worked out, and we chose an out-of-the-way barn in Belmont County so that we could try it, not necessarily directly in the public eye, see how it went, explore the possibilities.
The first barn was in Belmont County because that's the county I'm from. And I think we went ahead and did that since it was local and close for me. And I even helped pick out that barn. And in those days, we kind of had to go door to door to find barns because no one knew of it. And even to describe what we were doing, I think took a little time.
And at the end of 3 days, we decided it was good enough for local media. We wanted some improvement before we released it statewide, and if we would make a decision to do that, it might come at a later time. We invited all the local media, but the Wheeling Register was one of the papers that came. They took a fantastic picture of the barn, and they were proud of it. They put it up on the AP wire, and the next morning we were on the front page of the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
And that's kind of how it began. It began in a very, I'd like to say we were Madison Avenue geniuses and knew that sure we were going to have great media attention and barn groupies and all that has happened, but it was pretty hit and miss at that point. We didn't know how this project would pan out and if it would even be more than a one barn project. Nearly 2,000 barn owners have applied to have their barns receive the logo. Now, we can't do 2,000 barns. We're doing one official barn in each county. So the selection criteria is we have 3 things that we look for.
Barns that are made out of wood, ones that are in good condition. That makes my job a lot easier. And barns that are on a high traveled road so people can see them.
Each coordinator will go out and look at the barns that have applied to have the logo. In some counties, it could be as few as 20. In others, it could be as many as 50. But they will go out and actually look at the barn and see if it meets our criteria. The part of the project that's often overlooked is the part of the project that makes the project possible. That's the person working over my shoulder right now.
Well, when I was, growing up, I don't remember sitting in the classroom saying when I grew up I want to be a barn painter.
He just loves art of all kinds, and so he experimented, of course, on our barn. But we enjoyed everything that he did.
We could not do this without Scott Hagan. And not just because of his skill with a paintbrush. That's what everybody knows. I know Scott Hagan as a person. I've worked with Scott Hagan, and Scott Hagan has become my friend.
The story I always tell to everyone is this. I said a prayer for Scott when he got out of school, that God would find him something in art, because that's what his love was in art. So, with tears streaming down my face, I prayed for him to find something, and I never dreamed it would be this big. And this is what God did for Scott.
He is a wonderful ambassador for the state of Ohio, and really is our only true statewide ambassador. He travels to every county, representing the Bicentennial Commission.
But the people everywhere seem to be really awesome people, really willing to help you. I remember needing directions on several occasions, and I remember a guy, I just pulled over and asked for directions, and then he said, I'll tell you what, you just follow me and I'll run you right down there. And I know he was busy doing something else. But just things like that, I mean, I'll never forget that kind of thing.
He does it as a professional. He is a wonderful person to work with.
Well, the first interview I had was in Belmont County. I remember that pretty well. That was on my birthday. And I looked into the camera and I thought of the long haul he was going to have, 88 barns, and it just sounded like so much. And so I remember telling them on the camera, I said, I just hope that everybody out there will take good care of Scott, and I feel that they will. And I just felt like there's a lot of good people out there, I know there are, and I know he's going to come home and tell me about a lot of these, which he did, and I want to thank those women who put him up, because they had no idea who he was, they didn't know what he really was all about, and it's hard to trust people anymore. But he had a lot of nice places to stay, and I really am grateful. I'm grateful for those people that put him up. I appreciate it so much.
He is dependable, he's hardworking, honest as the day is long, a consummate gentleman, wonderful with the public, and he's 25 years old. What are the chances of that? I mean, we turned a 20-year-old kid loose on the state of Ohio, and we are much the better for it. I can't say enough about working with Scott. Now, if any of the barn followers, there are so many of them out there, have probably noticed Scott's technique, how it has changed, and how he would be the first to admit that it's improved from that first barn in Belmont County.
I know that the first few barns were pretty hard with that big script O, and I had a lot of trouble with the big O. And the first year and a half, I'd mess around for hours trying to get that big O right.
His technique has gotten so much better, and the style has gotten better and changed. It's much bolder. His lines are bolder from the way he does Ohio to the almost perfect lines of the bicentennial, the way he writes it. The logo flows much freely now. It's not as stiff on a surface.
Well, I never really had any formal art training, or people always ask me, how long did you go to college or that. I didn't go to any art school or anything like that. I just kind of learned it for myself. My mother has a lot to do with that, and her mother, because they have artistic talent as well.
He approaches each barn the same way, looks for the same types of characteristics. Is there a window in the way? Are there vents on each side? A lot of barns, they were working farms, so they need to vent the heat out of the top of the barn. So if you're storing hay or something, so they're going to have vents, they're going to have windows, they might have a door to use to access the top part of the barn. These are all things that he looks at when he approaches a site, when he sees the site for the first time.
What usually happens is Bicentennial will send me a picture of the barn, and then that way I kind of know what I'm going to be dealing with when I go there.
He looks for the type of wood. He prefers a wider board.
This is a real nice surface to work on as far as barns go, because it's real flat and they're big boards, and the detail's a lot easier to do on a nice barn like this.
The tongue and groove gives him fits. He's always muttering about tongue and groove.
A lot of times I'll get barns that are, I call tongue and groove surface, and there's a groove about every 2 inches, and that makes it not as much fun to do, because you've got to get in there with your brush, and then it wants to run down all those grooves.
But the proof is in his work, and if you go back and look at the barns that are tongue and groove, they are finely detailed. He really takes pride in his work. He will not rush, although I've tried to move him along sometimes, and sometimes I try and slow him down.
A barn can take as many as 3 days and as little as 1 day to do. Depends on the size of the barn, condition it's in when I get there, that sort of thing. If the barn side needs painted, that's going to add some time.
But he really takes a lot of pride in what he does, and it's evident in all 88 barns. They're magnificent. And I think it's because it's the patient way and the professional way that he approaches each barn. One of the most interesting components of this are the barn, heck, I'll call them barn groupies, that follow Scott Hagan from county to county to county. I mean, let's face it, they're coming out to watch paint dry.
Well, let's see, I've only got 5 more to go, so what, 83, let's see?
74. And next week we're going to do 7 up in the northern counties, Lorain, Erie, and there, and then after that we'll almost be up with Scott.
That'll make us 64, I think, of the 88.
We've got 9 barns that we've spotted. We've got pictures of 7, and so this makes our 10th barn.
70-some. And we've got this one to get yet, and then 2 on the way home.
Clinton County, Montgomery County, Ashland County.
Marion and Morrow and Logan.
One time we drove like 14 hours, and we only hit like 7 of the barns. So usually it's just to go get the barns and then back home again.
Jackson County, Ross County.
It was amazing to us. I mean, they're, planning trips to go to different barns and all these things, and they all had shirts. We're like, whoa.
And this all got started with me at the painting of the Miami County barn. I was born in that county, so I thought it was interesting that I could see that be painted. So we went up and spent 2 days, and it was pretty much weather like we've been having in the 90s and hot, but it was wonderful. The second day when he finished, they had homemade ice cream and cookies shaped like the state of Ohio. And so that was really a nice, it was a lot of fun. It was a fun time.
I saw my first one in Tuscaloosa, number 11. That was in October of 1998. And from there, I couldn't believe how neat they all were.
I said, how do I get addresses for these? And she said, oh, we can send you all that. So she sent me up to date, the 67 that had been painted.
We took off and we started doing it. And as more that we did, the more we enjoyed it. We got to see different places of the state that we probably would have never have gone before, ride roads that we would have definitely never been on before. And as we started seeing more and more barns, it became interesting to see the different paintings. Although the emblem and the symbol is the same, it's always got a little bit of flair to it, a little variety. And it was really a good time for us.
We tried to do 7 barns in a day. And we would sit down the night before and plan our trip. And I had a list of everything. We go this road, right, left. And so it took all the work out of it when we went to photograph the barn. And we always went to the door, asked for permission if it was all right if we photographed. A lot of times we didn't find people at home, but a lot of times we did. And that was the most wonderful experience, talking to those people. And they sent us home with wonderful stories, a lot of laughs. And one couple even sent us home with a basket full of produce out of their garden.
The one in Muskegon, it was way back in, and when we pulled up there, the man and lady were in their golf carts. They were going, I guess, back to the barn. And they were so nice. They stood there and they got out of the cart and they talked to us probably about an hour and a half. And it was really nice.
Yeah, we're barn groupies. When you pull into a barn and there's 200 people there, I guess you got to consider yourself one of them.
What makes otherwise normal, hardworking, everyday Ohioans drop everything they're doing, drive thousands of miles over the 5-year history of the project to sit and watch Scott paint a barn, to take photos of Scott painting a barn?
They're all of them are different. I mean, different colors and the way he paints them, it's really great.
My husband wasn't real red hot when we first got started with the idea, but as we went along, he's had as much fun as I did because he loves to visit, and he loves to visit the older generation, and we're finding a lot of those with these farms and barns.
Everybody's been very, very friendly, and we've had a lot of neat experiences. Usually it's hard to leave because they're so nice, they want you to stay and enjoy the time.
It's been great. We've met such good people, and talking to them, it's just something else. I mean, all of them have been so nice, and Scott has really been nice. I mean, he's signed a lot of papers for me and pictures for me, and he's a great guy.
And I'll ask these people, where are you traveling from? And they'll say, Licking County. And I'll look on my map, and heck, that's an hour and a half away, or 2 hours, or 3 hours, or 4 hours. These people are going to those barns.
We're over 5,000 miles. And by the time we do next week and maybe a few more around the southern Scioto and Lawrence yet, it'll be over 6.
Oh boy, about 9,500. That would be going and coming, getting them.
There was a lady in Shelby County that called, and she didn't know she could make it. I said, well, it's going to be a nice project. Well, she called me back to tell me that she would be here. She didn't have to do that, but she just felt like she needed to call and tell me she was going to be there. The barn enthusiasts, I think they've taken ownership of this project. They're very proud of what they've done and very proud of their scrapbooks.
I have a book over here, I have a book. They're all in there, up to date.
Jealous if somebody's got a photo of the Wood County barn before it was touched up and a Wood County barn after it was touched up.
I'll probably be working on it 5 years from now. I love it.
They trade them back and forth, and when did you get that, and have you been to Sandusky, and have you been to Lucas, and have you seen the yellow barn in Cuyahoga County or the black barn in Hamilton County, and oh, it's hard to find, you won't be able to find it, the directions are terrible. We get that call a lot.
Some of these places to get to are a real challenge.
And I'm looking and looking and looking, and he's saying, did you see it? Did you see it? Of course I didn't see it, or I would have told him.
We didn't know where we were at because we knew the barn was around, that area somewhere.
So I'm looking and looking and looking, and
we wasn't even anywhere near and where we were supposed to go, so he showed us this little road to go to, and it was really, really way back in.
I've always described the whole thing as a scavenger hunt because the directions are never perfect. Some of them aren't very good.
As I tell people that call the office, The directions are purposely vague because it adds to the thrill of the hunt. There's a scavenger hunt quality to it.
Well, it's definitely a thrill because sometimes you've been looking for a while.
I'm often asked, why is this project taken on the popularity that it has?
I think they're universal. There literally isn't a county in Ohio without a barn. It's something we all have close to home. And each one's unique and a little bit different depending on the agricultural industry of the area, the ethnic heritage of the area. The barns are shaped different, they're sized differently, they're positioned differently. And so every county has an opportunity to have something that's uniquely theirs, that they can see the picture and go, I know that's mine. And yet they share it with every other county too.
The first footprints in Ohio were agriculture, whether it was Native Americans planting corn, settlers planting crops for sustenance and for a livelihood, to the agriculture that we have today. There's an agricultural heritage to Ohio. Barns are obviously a part of that.
It's such a big thing. Ohio is just a wonderful place where they raise food for just so many things. There's so many different varieties of things that they have. So it's a huge thing in Ohio, and I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it.
I think barns are a throwback to a simpler time. They evoke an Americana that I think people long for, especially right now.
Well, it does. You know, one of the original images in my head before it even became a spoken, conscious idea was of traveling places with my grandparents as a child. We used to go to Athens to White's Mill in the spring to get the seed and the chicks and the little bunnies for Easter. And coming back, we'd count mail pouch barns. And it was like a sort of a fun game on the way, a landmark way to know your territory and see that territory.
I think people enjoy going and sitting in a lawn chair and talking to a neighbor. They enjoy going and sitting in a lawn chair and watching something that you don't see anymore, an art form that is from days gone by.
Well, one reason I think barns have been so popular is because no one really does that kind of work anymore. When the mail pouch died out, there hasn't been anything for years, and I think people see that it's someone actually using a brush to do work. That's one thing, and it's not a billboard. They really seem to pay a lot more attention to barns than they do billboards, just because it's just not something that you see all the time.
And I think the bicentennial has kind of made the barns an icon of their celebration. Barns are an American icon, and we have kind of co-opted barns and made them our own.
I have had so many people say to me, I've seen barns in this county and that county and whatever, and that's what you hear about is the barns.
It takes us back to yesteryear and makes you feel a little bit like you're a part of that time.
And you tend to see things other states, and you don't see anything in your own area, so this gives you a chance to see your own state a little bit.
Well, it's just, we love farm, and we love farm people and small town people. And we have eaten in restaurants in these small towns, and the people in there are so friendly, and it's just been an absolute wonderful time to fellowship with just the cream of the crop, the farmers and the small town people. Nothing wrong with big towns, but there's just something about the country. It's a great country.
You know, with everything that's happened in America over the past several months, it's just true Americana. I think that's really, really what says it all.
As the Ohio Bicentennial Barn Project winds down, we are often asked, did we know that it would have this impact? We were not Madison Avenue geniuses. We had no idea what the impact of this project would be. We are thrilled, amazed, and awed by this project. It's allowed us to touch every Ohio county.
One of the proudest things that have happened, in my opinion, out of this is that many of Ohio's barns that were in disrepair, that aren't even part of the program, have been repaired and become symbols of family history. People are painting their family names on barns with dates of founding, and I've seen knockoff bicentennial barns with big Ohio flags on them, and I have seen barns with Cardinals and barns with John Deere tractors and barns with Holstein cattle, and I'm really happy to see every one of them.
It brings you home. I mean, a lot of us grow up and move away from your hometown, but it kind of brings you back.
I'm grateful for this. It's been a real experience for our family. And for Scott, it's a dream. I came here yesterday and I thought about the movie, The Field of Dreams. I thought about the cornfields here and soybeans and that, and I just thought, you know, God, it's been a field of dreams. And I'm so appreciative of it. You don't know how much appreciative I am of it. I just am so grateful. And I want to thank the Bicentennial Commission. They opened doors for our whole family. And I just want to say thanks.
Well, I would paint thank you really big to everybody that's been part of it. Without the Bicentennial, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And, you know, I'd like to think I have a little something to do with the Bicentennial too. So I guess thank you from the barn painter would be just good enough for me, and that would be neat. I guess that's what people call me, as a barn painter, so that's fine.
We're Buckeyes, and they say Buckeyes are worthless nuts, but I don't believe a word of it. There are wonderful people in this state.
The Bicentennial has come to every Ohio county and allowed each Ohio county to celebrate Ohio, to celebrate what's important to that county. And if at the end of the day, when Scott has taken down his scaffolding and the paint is dried and the bunting is removed, people walk away from a barn project, feel a little bit better about themselves, about their country, about Ohio, have learned a little bit about their community, well, that's pretty good. That's what we had always hoped for.
Grass clippings, food scrap, garden remains, leaves, all have one thing in common. They can all be composted. All these things will go back to nature, using only air and water. Nature will recycle these and numerous other items back into rich soil to benefit your garden or shrubs. Turn it on the ground or tumble it in special drums. Composting saves landfill space and can save you money. Composting can turn into a fun project for the entire family.
We've all heard the gruesome statistics concerning child abuse. Maybe you've dismissed them and convinced yourself there's nothing you can do to help. Truth is, you can help. Voices for Children can make you an advocate to a child in Lorain County who desperately needs your help. Make the time to make a difference. Call Voices for Children today and find out how you can become part of the solution in speaking up for an abused child. We need your help.